What's going on, CDL fans? As you can see on the screen, we're going to be tier listing all the players heading into COD Champs. Going to crack open my fresh juvie and we're going to hop right into this ranking. Two quick things. Number one is this is made by the guys over at CDL Podcast. If you haven't seen their channel, they do podcast episodes on YouTube and talk about the CDL. So big shout out to them and congrats to them for 1,000 subscribers. As well as this, as you can see here, I have it ranked differently. It's not your S, A tier, that sort of thing. I have it ranked as a top 5 players, then 6 through 12, 13 through 25, and then 26 through 32, as there are 32 players heading into champs. So there might be a little bit of reorganization that needs to go on at the end, but let's hop right on in with our first player, Abizi. Obviously going in the 1 through 5 category, the MVP candidate, top 5 player in the league without a doubt. And also, let me just say, this is not projecting or predicting how they're going to be at champs. This is kind of just going based off the season, especially more recently as we looked at Major 5 and even Major 4. So kind of looking at their overall performance this season, especially with more recency bias. But Mac, I think I'm going to put him in the bottom at 26 through 32. He's just been a bit underwhelming, especially recently towards the later end of this year. So I think that's where I'm going to put him. Then we have Skies. I'm thinking A. I'm not sure if he's going to stay in A. He might end up falling down one, but right now I'm going to put him in A. Then we have Simp, another great player, definitely going to go in A. He's the kind of player that can be an S tier player at any point throughout the year, but I think, you know, he has 2 other S tier players on his team, so I just don't know if there's spot for him in the top 5. Then we have Accuracy. Lamar, unfortunately, probably going to go in the 26 through 32 range. Definitely, you know, the kind of player that I think brings a lot of intangibles to the team, definitely can be a very, very good player, very good leader, but this year definitely had a down year, and I think it'll be interesting to see if we find him on a team next year. I kind of can see him being one of the players that ends up not being on a roster heading into next season. Then we have Pred. I think typically would be an S tier player, but maybe more recently finds himself in the 6 through 12 range. Had a little bit of a down stage in Major and Major 5. Overall has been an amazing player. Maybe I move him up towards the end of this video, but right now I think he's probably more in the 6 through 12 range. And if we were looking at the whole season, I'd probably put him at 1 through 5, but since I said we're having a little bit more recency bias because this is ranking them heading into champs, which is the last event of the year, a little bit more recently, Pred kind of fell down a little bit. Then we have Kenny. I think probably a 13 through 25. Obviously, this is going to be the biggest category, right? This is kind of your average players or the ones who have been playing average. So you kind of have more like your subpar, your par players. Then you have your above average players and your superstar players is kind of how I did this. So this will end up being the biggest tier, but I'm going to put Ken in there. Then we have Attach. Probably the same thing for Attach. You know, he was taken off the team. He's brought back onto the team. You know, kind of all over the place. I think Attach probably finds himself in this tier. Then we have Kremp. Honestly, been a pretty solid rookie so far this season. Right now, I'm going to put him in this tier. I'm not sure if that's where he'll stay. For right now, I think he's in that 13 through 25 range. He's been pretty good. He's showed out a lot in some Search and Destroy, and I think he's been pretty solid for Boston. It'll be interesting to see how Boston does heading into the, you know, with 3 rookies on their team heading into champs. So we'll see how they do, but right now, putting him in there. And we have Priesta. You know, he might be flirting with this range a little bit, but I think for sure he probably ends up in here in the 13 through 25 range. This isn't going to be ranked like left to right in terms of like Abizi's 1, whoever's next to him is 2. I'm not going to do it like that just because I don't want to. It takes so much time and deliberation to do that. Although I think I'm going to make a video at the end of the season, literally ranking every player that played this year, like 1 through, I don't even know how many players played this year, 60 maybe, something like that, 1 through 55. So I do think I'm going to try and do that, but that's going to take a lot more planning, research, and deliberation on my end. So that's not what we're doing in this video. Then we have Shotzi. I mean, with their performance at the Major, it might drop him down into the 6 through 12 range, but he's definitely a player I'm considering moving up to 1 through 5. We'll see where we get at the end of the video. Then we have Envoy. I think Envoy is a player who's always does very well, but I think he kind of had a little bit of an on and off. He's been a little inconsistent this season. Obviously, they did win Major 4, which wasn't too long ago. I think maybe he could find himself in this range, but for right now, I'm going to put him in 13 through 25. Like I said, this is going to be the biggest category. So players that are closer to 13 are obviously players that are closer to 25. But for now, since this is a tier list, that's how tiers work, and that's just how we're going to do it. Then we have Dashi. I think Dashi's probably in the 1 through 5 category. Maybe you could argue putting him down in 6 through 12, but I'd say he's been probably their most consistent player on Optic. I think Shoutout maybe a little bit more impactful just because he plays the SMG role, but I think Dashy, just the numbers he's been putting up, especially recently, puts him in 1 through 5. And then even at the major, he was the only person I think to go positive on Optic in both their series. Obviously, KD isn't the best stat when you're looking at an overall player's skill and impact around the map, but the rest of his team was really getting fried, and he was only getting a little bit fried and was able to get, you know, that single digit positive numbers. So I'm gonna put him in 1 through 5. Then we have Octane, another player similar to Dashy, I think in the conversation of best AR in the league. I kind of want to put him in the 1 through 5 category, but he might end up falling out to 6 through 12. Dude's been insane all year long, especially towards the later end of the year. He's really picked it up, similar to what he did last year. Right now I'm going to keep him in 1 through 5, but he may fall down. Then we have Draza, another player who has been really good this year. I think definitely solidified in that 6 through 12 range for me right now. The dude's been super consistent. I know he gets a lot of hate. I know there's always drama around him, but overall the skill is you can't argue the skill that Draza brings to the table, and I think he finds himself for sure in 6 through 12. Hydra, our other MVP candidate, I'm going to put him next to a BZ just for the sake of us seeing them together, but both of those being, I think, the only 2 MVP candidates you can really argue for. Personally, Hydra is my MVP, but if you give it to a BZ, I can't question you on that. I can't fault you on that. I think either one is a really good option, but I think those 2 are undoubtedly 1 and 2 in the league, depending on how you want to put it. So they're definitely, Hydra is definitely going to go in my 1 through 5. Sib, a player who kind of has been a little disappointing this season, especially recently. I think going to put him in the 13 through 25 category for sure. He hasn't been, as bad as other teammates like Mac and Lamar. Definitely hasn't been as good as Pred has been all season long. He's had his moments. He's definitely that second star on the team behind Pred. And with free agency coming up this season, I'm sure we're going to see Pred and Sib leave this Seattle Surge team. We will see where he goes. Maybe he heads to FaZe, replaces Slasher, Celia moves to main. We'll do Roster Mania videos as Roster Mania and the offseason kicks off. Then we have Beans. I think Beans is a 6 through 12 player. I think he's been good all year long. I think if it wasn't for Scrap, he would be Rookie of the Year. The dude has been really good. He's been consistent, I would say. He's been very good at Search and Destroy, and especially recently, Major 4, Major 5, the last 2 stages of the year, he's been pretty good. I think for now I have him in 6 through 12. He might fall into 13 through 25, but for now I think he's been solid in this area. Then we have Awakening, obviously the best player on Boston Breach. I think 6 through 12 for me right now. I think you could even argue 1 through 5 for Awakening, especially when you look at recently. But Big Wake has been a menace ever since he's came into the league. His rookie year, I don't know if people remember this, but his rookie year in Modern Warfare, people thought he was hacking. I mean, Crim6 was like calling him out for hacking all the time, especially with Modern Warfare having most of the league being online. People thought Big Wake was hacking or using a Cronus or something in his first year. I thought that was just, I don't know, I thought that was super funny back in the day how much people accused him of hacking, but I still think he's been a solid star in this league and finds himself in this ranking. Next up, we have Snoopy, the newest rookie coming into the team of Boston Breach. I mean, what to expect out of him, we don't know, so I'm gonna put him in the C tier. Some of the clips I've seen on Twitter, he looks pretty good. Obviously, he was playing online, playing like 8s and some other things with other pros, but he looks pretty good. I think he could have a really good event and find himself upwards in this tier list. But for now, we don't know what to expect out of him, so I have to put him in the last tier. And we have Scrap. I'm gonna put him in 1 through 5. The dude's insane. I mean, he's just such a good player. Obviously, he's Rookie of the Year. I think out of Hydra and a BZ, he's probably 3rd in MVP in my eyes. But yeah, I'm gonna put Scrap in 1 through 5. This is obvious. Both of these tiers actually are filled out already for me, so there's definitely gonna have to be some moving going on here. But for now, these 2 tiers are filled. And then as I say they're filled, obviously there is Celium to consider in the 1 through 5 tier. I will come back to this. Someone's gonna have to drop down from 1 through 5, and then if I move them here, someone's gonna have to drop down from there, but we will come back to this. Kleenex, a player who I think flirts with the 6 through 12 spot, but for now I'm gonna put him in 13 through 25. We're just kind of filled up here. He's a very impactful player. He's not a player that's gonna have a high KD, but he does so much for this Toronto team, and I think he tends to be underrated. But for now, I'm gonna put him in this tier. Then we have Fame, the rookie on Minnesota. I think he has his moments. I think he's pretty good at Search and Destroy. He's definitely showed out in a lot of SNDs. But for now, I'm gonna put him in the bottom tier. I think he's definitely got more to prove. Minnesota's been a bit dysfunctional, a lot of roster changes. changes, you know. And I think they could really be a dark horse at champs, but for now I'm gonna put Fame down there. Ghosty, another rookie. I realized earlier that I said if it wasn't for Scrap, Beans would probably be a rookie of the year. Honestly, it might be Ghosty. Optic, I said, had better placements than Boston this season, so it probably would be Ghosty over Beans. I retract my statement from earlier, but I think Beans is top 3 and Ghosty is top 3 in rookie of the year rankings, and I think I'm gonna put Ghosty in this tier for now. Like I said with Kleenex, Ghosty is not a, you know, a stat patter. He's not going to be someone who has high KDs. He's going to sit in the hill. He's going to have impact on his team. He's going to enable them to have good communication, good teamwork. Different than Kleenex. Obviously, Kleenex is an entry SMG. I was just using that stat comparison for them. But I think for now, Ghosty's going to go here. Then we have Insight. Insight's such an interesting player to me because people, I feel like people don't realize how little kills he actually gets. If you look at stats, Insight looks like he has a pretty decent KD a lot of the time, but a lot of the time he ends up in so little engagements compared to his teammates because he has Kleenex, because he has Hixie, because he has Scrap, who are all super fast players. Insight tends to just be sitting in the back, kind of posted up. So you'll see a game end where Kleenex, Hixie, Scrap will all have 40 plus engagements and Insight will have like 20. So he's an interesting player, sometimes has a high KD, but I think for now I'm going to put him in this tier. Next up we have Bance, a player who I think somewhere goes in here. He was probably their best player on LAN at Major 5. So for now I'm going to put him here, but I definitely think he could drop into 26 through 32 when you just look at the whole season. Last player for Toronto Ultra, we have Hixie, another rookie. I think he's technically considered a rookie. He did actually play a little bit last season. I think Scrap did too, but I think these are both considered their rookie seasons. Hixie, I'm going to put him in this tier. Unfortunately, you know, he has a lot of impact on the map. He definitely enables his team to play better. We saw how much better they are when they put Hixie in for Standy, but I'm just going to have to put him in this last tier. I mean, I got to fill out this tier anyway, and Hixie's numbers are like flirting with like a 0.88, I think. So right now I'm going to put him in here. Then we have Hook, another player who I think can be underrated. For now, I'm going to put him in this tier. He might also fall, similar to what I said with Bance, just because we really got to figure out how we're going to do these tiers, because they're going to start getting filled. I mean, the top 2 are already overfilled. This one's almost filled. So we're going to have to see how we want to do this. But for now, I'm going to put Ook here. Kismet, another player that's going to make this even harder. I think Kiz is A tier. I actually think definitely Kiz is A tier. The dude is super underrated. It's hard to properly rate Kiz when you have a superstar MVP candidate in Hydra playing next to him. But Kismet does everything for this team. I actually have an awards video, my CDL awards, which may be out before you see this video, may not be, but that's just me giving out my awards. Kismet, definitely, I do a little more conversation about Kiz in that video, so make sure to check that out if it's already on the channel. If not, make sure to sub and look out for that video, which will be coming out soon. But I think Kismet is a really, really good player in this league, and people tend to not realize, but I'm going to put him in the 6 through 12. Slasher, I think he could probably goes in this tier. He has his moments. He enables his team to play well. He's really good at search and destroy. He's a good leader, but for now I'm gonna put him in this tier. And then last but not least, we have Cammy, somewhere in this range. For now I'm gonna put him here. Let me count up my list and let's see where we got to move people. So first things first, we got to move 2 people down to this bottom tier. We're only at you know, 26 through 30. We need to add 31 and 32 here. Not that that's how they're actually ranked, but we need to fill out this this tier. I think for me, it's going to be Bance and Cammy, honestly. I think they've been underwhelming this year, and I think everyone up here has had better seasons than Bance and Cammy. So I think, unfortunately, I'm going to put them down in this tier, even though I really like both of them. I miss seeing Cold War Cammy. The dude was a menace, and I really like Bance. He's done so many great things. Best European player we've seen so far, although I think Hydra is giving him a run for his money on that aspect. But I think I'm going to move those 2 down. Then that means I got to move 2 more people down to this tier, which is going to be difficult because these people up here all are really, really good. This is super difficult because I really like every player that I have up here and I consider them top players in this league. It's super hard because if you look at the numbers, Kismet's probably got the worst numbers of the players in this tier. But I really, really believe Kismet is like an impactful player, but I'm going to move him down. He might be closer to the 13, 14, 15 range. So unfortunately, I really like Kismet. I want to make that clear, but he's going to have to be one of the people that come down. I think also Octane is probably going to have to drop into this tier. I think when you look at the whole season, these 5 players have been consistently better than Octane. Although LA Thieves obviously won a major, Octane's been really good, especially recently. I think I have to move him down to 6 through 12, although I do believe he's in contention for one of the best ARs in the game. And then that leaves just one more player to move from 6 through 12 down to the 13 through 25 tier. I definitely do think it's going to be Beans that goes down, although Beans has actually had better numbers than Simp a lot of the time throughout this year, especially in like overall KD. But we all know what Simp can do. He's a superstar. He's a really, really good player. He just gets overshadowed by Beezy and Celium, especially this season. So I'm going to drop Beans down to my next tier. But this is actually going to be the final tier list. So 1 through 5, Hydra, BZ, Dashy, Scrappy, Celium. I think that's pretty accurate, honestly. I think, you know, maybe if Pred had a better stage 5, he would find himself in here, and then I had to figure out who I drop. For now, this is kind of what we're looking at. Like I said, this is not in order left to right of like who I think is 13 versus who I think is 25. And that tier is massive. The 13th best player is going to be very different than the 25th best player. But I wanted to make this tough, and I wanted to make it hard for me to decide who I really thought were the top of the top. And I think it was definitely difficult. Let me know if there's anything you would really change in this tier list. Hopefully this video ended up not being too long. I mean, I've been recording for 23 minutes. After cutting it down, I really hope this is left in like 12 minutes, but we will see. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, sub to the channel for more CDL and Call of Duty content, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.